the microphone towards you.
Okay. Good afternoon, West Haven. Great to be here. Good afternoon. My name is Alexis Harrison. I am with CT169strong.org, and we are a grassroots group of citizens, people like you, who are fighting for our local zoning rights and for the independence of our 169 cities and towns in Connecticut. It's a gorgeous day out here, a little chilly, but you could be doing a lot of things. You could be walking your dog, playing with your kids, but you came here. You came here to fight for your local zoning. So last week, my friend Stephen approached me. He said, I think we should do a rally up in West Haven. And I said, great idea, let's do it. And Stephen has been a fighter. He's been on the forefront of zoning here in West Haven, and he's fighting to keep it local. Local communities like West Haven know decision-making is best when our neighbors, when our friends make these decisions for us. So Stephen Mullins, a great man, a great leader, one of West Haven's finest. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you everyone for coming out. We're not gonna keep you too long because it's a gorgeous day out and I got a lot to do at home and we all have things to do, but it is very important that we take this opportunity to take a few minutes, take a few moments in time to fight for our rights, fight for our freedoms as Americans, and fight for the independence of our 169 cities and towns that make up the state of Connecticut. We have had a legislature that is willing and ready to take away our zoning rights. Now, most people, I'll go back. I've served on the Planning and Zoning Commission here in this city for 15 years. And for twice a month, since 2006, I've had the personal honor and pleasure as a public official of listening to the citizens of West Haven as they come to P&Z meetings and to speak out in favor or against applications, projects going on in their respective neighborhoods. These are decisions that we make twice a month that can affect their lives as soon as the very next day. So, in addition to West Haven, there's another 168 roughly planning and zoning commissions that do the same thing. Public hearings are a part of the checks and balances that we in Connecticut cherish. That is at risk of being taken away from us. How would it be if we had bureaucrats, unelected bureaucrats in Hartford who are nameless and faceless, who will make all of the decisions that go on in your respective communities without you having one bit of say? Are we standing up against that?
Yes.
Are we telling Hartford no?
Yeah. You gotta be louder.
All right, you know what? Apparently, this is a dead crowd.
Let's hear
Are
you.
we going against this?
Yes!
Are we telling Hartford no?
Yes!
Stand straight.
We are all independent. This is a home rule state. Our cities and towns are home rule. Centralized zoning does not work. What works here in West Haven may not work in Orange. What works in Orange may not work in Stamford. We cannot be governed the same. And the only way it is going to stop is if you, the citizens of Connecticut, contact and bug your respective senators, and representatives. I've been telling people in West Haven, I'm telling all of you from wherever you are, you contact by text, phone call, email your senators, your state representatives, and you tell them to vote no on these bills. Now, Representative Ferraro is here from West Haven. He's going to give you the list of bill numbers and so forth. I don't have them all memorized. One particular one that I know of is 1024. There are several others, and I'm telling you all, contact your representatives because the power is with you, the people, and you, the people only. They are why they have their positions in Hartford. You are why they have their positions in Hartford. And you can easily take them out. So rally, get together, tell your friends, because this, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but this is going to affect your neighborhoods. People don't think about zoning on a regular basis. I do because this is what I do, but people don't think about zoning. But these are freedoms that we have now that we enjoy and we want to continue to enjoy. And I'll tell you this right now, I'm going to end with this as I've ended in other rallies in the past. Right now, we're talking about planning and zoning and the possibility of Hartford legislators taking away cities and towns' rights to home rule. What will it be tomorrow? What are they going to try to take away from us tomorrow? What will they try to take away from us the next day? Right now, we're in a pandemic. Our priorities are our children, some of them being educated at home by Zoom or what have you, some in person. People are working from home. Things have changed a great deal in the past 13 months. So for Joe, average, regular Connecticut citizen who is not involved in politics, they're not thinking about what goes on in Hartford. Why should you? You've got your own life to deal with. So this is the perfect opportunity for legislators in Hartford to take advantage of the fact that we're not paying attention. And by the time we are paying attention, it may be too late. So Connecticut, let's wake up. Let's wake up.
Hear, hear.
And let's tell our legislators, 151 in the House, 36 in the Senate. Let's tell them to vote no. I'm going to call on State Representative Charles Ferraro from right here in the city of West Haven. Friend of mine, coming up.
We're going to get these posted, right? Videos?
Good afternoon, and kind of glad he called me up next because had he called up my colleague, Senator Hwang, after he spoke, I don't think there'd be anything left to say. So he's a pretty good expert on this issue and is at the forefront of it. I just recently got involved in this particular issue because each of us in Hartford have our own, what do you want to say, our own niche. And mine has been energy and technology, and my attention has been taken away from this. But as soon as I heard about what was going on in planning and development and with zoning regulations, I realized that how important this issue is to local municipalities. West Haven has been fairly lucky because we have been over what is called the threshold for 830G for quite some time now. We have about 13 to 14% affordable housing. And that has given us a moratorium, so to speak, from 830G predatory type developers who would use that statute to circumvent planning and zoning regulations and put up affordable housing units that didn't comply with our city ordinances. So we've been very lucky, but I have to say that this legislation, if some of these bills pass, West Haven could find themselves in a situation where their current affordable housing calculation will be recalculated based on a new formula for fair housing, which is in bill number 6611. In that bill, the calculation can be redone, and it could be found that West Haven is below the threshold again. I know Milford is highly in jeopardy of that because they just recently qualified for a moratorium. And if the recalculation goes through, Milford might find themselves having to redo their calculations and try to bring themselves up to the threshold. Now, what the threshold does is it allows a city to protect itself from a developer who might come in and maybe he wants to put up a 6-unit facility on a highly trafficked area, but there isn't 2 areas of egress. There isn't enough passage for emergency vehicles. So for one reason or another, the local zoning board denies the application. Well, then the very next day, the developer decides, well, you know what, I want this project, and the heck with the zoning commission, I'm gonna file under 830G, and then that person, they can then go and build this facility without following the regulations for zoning. So that's just a little background information, but what's going on now, the whole idea of taking zoning out of the hands of local municipalities and turning it over to the state of Connecticut for all the reasons that my good friend Steve Mullins went through, it's a very bad idea. I mean, a top-down, cookie-cutter type of approach to zoning for every single town will not work for towns like, let's take a town like Orange. Orange is a agricultural town. They will never reach the 10% threshold, and they're not upset about not reaching it because they have an ambiance, or they have a character within their zoning laws that requires, if you're going to buy a piece of property or build a home, you have to have 1.5 acres or 2 acres of land. And that is what this town of Orange looks like if you drive through it. If all of a sudden the state comes in and says, well, you know, you have to have a certain amount of affordable housing, and since you don't have it, then we're going to step in and we're going to redesign your zoning laws around transit areas, highly trafficked areas, things like that. The character of that town is going to be changed, and it is not going to reflect what the people in that town have worked so hard to develop. Now, I have to say, in fairness, that all legislation many times originates from good intentions, and the intention of this legislation is to make sure that there's enough diversity in communities and that diversity is properly represented. And as we all know, a community that is diverse is a very strong community. And there's nothing wrong with that, but taking the power out of the hands of the municipality and turning it over to the state, 169 municipalities who have a completely different vision of how they want their town to move forward, it's not a good idea. And so what can be done going forward is, instead of being heavy-handed about it, there are laws out, rules or statutes out now that require towns to give a plan for their housing plan or their affordable housing and how they're going to move forward in the future by the year 2023. So I say, let the statute play out, let the municipalities give their plan to the state, and then let them work directly with the stakeholders to develop a plan that works. But to turn around and remove zoning boards and have them have a second seat to a state zoning, I think is going to create problems. Some of the problems you might create might be some towns are not set up their sewage is not set up to be able to handle large facilities that would be multi-units and what have you, and that could lead to environmental problems. Other towns have sewage situations that would be able to handle that. So I think that all these things have to be taken into account, because let's say you're one of these towns that doesn't have the proper sewage to support a multi-unit affordable housing complex. Well, guess where the expense is going to fall on? The state's not going to come in and rebuild that sewage up to where it would be able to support it. The town is going to have to be mandated to pay for that. So additionally to that, the stress that's going to be put on many of these towns' educational systems. As you know, it's about $15,000 per person to be educated. That's going to put additional stress on these towns. So that's a pretty far jump from where I was supposed to go with the bill numbers. But I don't want to give you all these bill numbers. I just want to alert you to the fact that there are three major ones. That is 1024 Senate bill, that's 6611 in the House, and 6107 in the House. But there are also 12 bills in 4 different committees. This kind of gives you an idea of how determined the majority party is in getting these bills passed. Because if one bill doesn't pass in one committee, they can always go to the next. If that doesn't pass, they go to the next. They even have 2 dummy bills. I don't know if you know what a dummy bill is. A dummy bill is a bill that has a crazy title that means nothing and is blank on the inside. So that later on in the session, right towards the end, when we're looking at other bills, all of a sudden the language gets put in that bill, and that bill gets thrown on the floor, and we're debating a bill that we didn't even know was coming. So these zoning bills that are currently running through the House and the Senate, the dummy bills, 14 in all, we're going to have to remain vigilant, and we're going to have to be on top of that, and in both the House and the Senate. What you can do as citizens, Steve was right on the money. We need advocacy. We need people to contact their legislators, contact their senators and their representatives. You need to flood their offices. Now, I don't see enough people out here that could make a difference if you yourself sent the form out. But everybody knows 10 people, and those 10 people know 10 people. And if everybody gets 10 people to send a letter and you flood your legislators with it, I want you to think for just a second what happened when the tolling in Connecticut came out last year. That tolling bill, you know, the people were thinking, well, boy, we're getting tolls in Connecticut. But then the people of Connecticut stood up, spoke up, wrote letters, went to Hartford and protested, had rallies such as this throughout Connecticut, and guess what? Not only was that bill taken off the floor, but Lamont is now proposing a 14-cent gas tax to take the place of the tolls, because he knows to bring the tolls back in a year of a municipal election would be disaster. So you people did your job, you were successful, and you got the legislation to move. So I think that if we do the same thing on this, talk to your friends, you know 10 people, tell them to talk to 10 people, everybody send letters, make phone calls, we can get it done again. So thank you very much.
Representative Charles Ferraro. Let's give him another hand. Thank you. And our final speaker, I've had the distinct pleasure of knowing him for many years now, Tony. And he's also, what I've known about Tony Hwang, the great state senator from the 28th district, is that he is a relentless fighter. And as a ranking member of the Planning and Development Committee, he's doing just that. He's fighting for our rights as individual towns. So I'm so happy that he's here today. Let's give a round for Tony Hwang.
You want to come down, just move the stand out of the way.
Thanks, Alexis, and Steve, thank you very much. In fact, I think I heard you twice on 2 different radio programs, and you've done a great job advocating, and particularly from your background as a local planning and zoning official, you really understand the importance of local input. So for this crowd here, I'm going to start by simply saying this. This will make you all feel right on cue with what we're dealing with. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help you. Right? That is the crux from a macro level of what we're talking about. It is the idea that state government from Hartford knows better than neighborhoods, than your towns, than your locally elected officials that has the primary vested interest in the best ideas for your community. That comes down to this debate. This debate is ultimately about the fact that the state of Connecticut, through its legislative majority, and at current, a one-party rule system, is telling the people of 169 towns in the state of Connecticut that they know your community better than your neighbors do. That, to me, is un-American, and it's un-Connecticut. When you think about the foundation of this country, when it was founded in Connecticut, 1639, the fundamental order was on the predication of individual rights and the fact that property rights were paramount to determining people's impact and legislative process. The Legislative General Assembly started in 1639. We are the oldest continuous democracy in the world, the Connecticut General Assembly. And it was intended to represent the people. But unfortunately, I think we've lost our way. I think we are at a process where state government, bureaucracy, and one-party rule has pushed the process to say, we know better than all of you. And that, to me, is un-American. I think the second important part that we want to have as this dialogue is this. In relations to zoning, you've got local planning and zoning boards that make impact. You've got local officials, conservation, watershed. These are all individuals that are part of your community. And they are accountable to individuals' personal property. One of the biggest frustrations of 830G is the fact that the state had made a determination over 30 years ago that under 830G, the rights that you have as a personal property owner does not matter in the context of the goals that's been set by the state. You could have a 1-acre single-family home, and if your town does not qualify under the 830G moratorium, somebody could buy that land next door and put a 50-unit apartment 5 stories high without any consistency with local zoning. And under 830G, they would be permitted to do so. And for most people, even though I would disagree with Steve on this point, I'm just grateful that you all came out today on a cold Saturday. And I'm grateful because you care. And you're going to spread the voice and the gospel that's necessary. But at the same time, I will tell you, zoning's really hard for people to get behind. Because most people, the story I just gave you, don't think it'll happen to them. Unless you have experienced that loss of personal property rights, that loss of local control, you really don't think it'll happen to you. Because it's just improbable that you own your property and you've got a wonderful attention to the entire community and take great pride in it, that somebody from outside the area could come in and build something so inconsistent, so disrespectful. But it happens. And in Connecticut, it hasn't happened as much as people would like, as much as developers would like, because we have local input. We have local control in collaboration with a greater goal. Make no mistake about it. We do have an important need in the state of Connecticut to have accessible, affordable, and diverse housing. Make no mistake about it. But the solution to those challenges that we have in the state of Connecticut can't come from a one-size-fits-all state one-party rule, taking away local input. What I would offer to you is the fact that we need to collaborate. We need to have neighborhoods. We need to have your local government. We need to have state government. We need to have federal government collaborate, challenge each other, understand each shareholder's perspective to finding solutions. Unfortunately, right now, in the one-party rule of Hartford, they think they know what's best. And to me, I'd rather start at my home and listening to my wife, who's the real boss. Then I'd rather listen to my locally elected officials that I know who is. You can walk down the street and know your first selectman. For people that live in West Haven, you know Steve Mullins as your planning and zoning official. I'd rather work with people that know me rather than a state nefarious entity that thinks they know what's better for me. So that's what the crux is all about, all right? It's about local input. It's about having your voices be heard. It's telling Hartford that instead of them making a decision for you, they better go back to the fundamentals of representative government, that they should listen to the people. So thank you very much for being here.
Hear, hear.
I would encourage you to stay active. There are many bills afoot. And Steve, I'll end with Steve's theme on this. Today is zoning. Tomorrow it's schools. The third is how you do your job. The bottom line is, where does it stop? It stops when people rise and have their voices be heard. And for all of you that are here today, I'm grateful and thank you. I want to thank Alexis and Steve for organizing this. But at the end of the day, you know, we're in the world of social media. We're in the world of quick hit news. But if you take this information and you share and you make that personal connection and tell 10 people, as Representative Ferraro said, you're going to make a bigger difference than any soundbite that we can make up here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for coming all the way down here up here from Fairfield. Visiting the beautiful West Haven Green on this beautiful West Haven day. Take the opportunity to go and have some great West Haven pizza while you're here, for those who are from out of town.
I just had it.
All right, I'm not going to start naming a litany, because if I leave somebody out, I'm going to be in real big trouble, so I'm not going to do that. But look around. All right, so you have been given your call to action. You've been given your call to power. You know what you're supposed to do. You know what your assignment is. You tell your friends, your neighbors, to contact your senators and representatives. Go on to ct169strong.org. You can learn about all the bills that are being proposed. You can read them, you can dissect them, and have a better understanding of them. Contact your legislators by text, email, flood them with phone calls, because you have the power to end this. I'm going to leave you with that. And there's a petition here also to sign that court has.
Come on, all.
All right. Thank you very much for coming. Have a good rest of your day. Enjoy some West Haven food.
And there's literature here.